Have you ever been in a situation where you saw the truth of someone so clearly, yet the people around you couldn't see it at all? You see the manipulation. If you feel the lies, you experience the games, but the world keeps praising them as charming, successful, and admirable. If it's like you're holding a torch in the dark, but everyone else insists the room is full of light. This, my friends, is the painful reality of dealing with a narcissist. When you see a narcissist for who they truly are, but others don't, it can feel deeply isolating. If you question yourself, you doubt your own eyes, you wonder, am I imagining this? Am I being too harsh? But remember this, if clarity is not a curse, it is your strength. And just because others are blinded by the narcissist's mask doesn't mean your vision is wrong. In fact, if your ability to see through the disguise is the very first step toward freedom. So often in life, we meet people who appear to be larger than life. If they walk into the room with confidence, they speak with authority, they carry an aura that attracts others like a magnet. To the outside world, if they look like they have everything figured out, people admire their charm, their humor, their success. And they wear this outer mask so convincingly that no one dares to question it. But you who has been close to them, you who has lived behind that closed curtain, you know something different. You know the truth behind that mask. And that truth does not always match the polished picture they project to the world. It's like when you go to a theater. The actor on stage looks royal, powerful, maybe even heroic. The costume, the lights, the dialogues, all of it is designed to convince the audience that they are watching greatness unfold. And the crowd claps, they cheer, they believe. But if you were to walk backstage, you would see the makeup smudges, the script in their hands, the nervous rehearsals, the reality that it's just a show. This is what life with a narcissist feels like. To the crowd, they are flawless performers. To you, who has been backstage, you see the insecurity, the arrogance, the manipulation that others miss. And that moment of clarity can be deeply frustrating, because no matter how much you try to tell the audience, this is just an act, they still believe the performance. Think of someone you may have worked with, maybe in the office. There's that one colleague who always shines in meetings. They take credit for ideas. If they speak eloquently, they charm the boss. Everyone says, wow, what a leader. But who has spent late nights working on the reports, they claim credit for, the truth. You know that behind closed doors, they are dismissive. They belittle your work and they thrive on exploiting your efforts. Yet when you try to explain this to others, they look at you in disbelief. They cannot imagine that the same person they admire could be so different in private. That's the power of the mask. It blinds the world while exhausting those who can see through it. But here's where inspiration begins. When you see behind the mask, you are no longer under its spell. Yes, hurts. Yes, it feels unfair that others cannot see what you see. But recognize this, your ability to see clearly is not a weakness, it is strength. Many people remain trapped because they cannot differentiate the performance from the reality. They stay fooled, they stay manipulated, they stay stuck. But you, because of your clarity, have the ability to step back. You have the power to say, I will not be deceived by the smile that hides the scorn. I will not be fooled by the compliments that are laced with control. I will not mistake the costume for the character. And once you reach this stage, something magical happens, you stop feeling the need to argue with everyone else about who the narcissist really is. You no longer waste endless energy trying to pull the mask off in front of the crowd. Because here's the truth, masks always fall off eventually. And no performance can last forever. People may not see it today, they may not see it tomorrow, but life has a way of revealing truth. Your job is not to force the mask off. Your job is to stay awake, to protect your peace, and to move forward with clarity. Imagine a child at a magic show. The magician pulls a rabbit out of the hat, and the child's eyes widen in wonder. They clap, they believe it's real magic. But you, as an adult, there's a trick behind it, you don't hate the child for believing. You understand that their perspective is different. In the same way, when people admire the narcissist, don't get trapped in frustration. They are seeing the trick, you are seeing the truth. That is your advantage. That is your wisdom. And wisdom always carries more value than temporary illusions. The narcissist mask is powerful, yes. But once you see through it, You don't need to fear it anymore. You stop chasing validation from those who don't see what you see. You stop doubting your own vision. You start trusting your inner clarity, and slowly you transform from someone who feels victimized by their disguise into someone empowered by the truth. Because clarity may be painful at first, but over time it becomes freedom. So if you have seen behind the mask, hold on to that vision. If it may make you feel alone, it may make you feel different from those who are still clapping for the performance, but in reality, it makes you stronger. Because in a world where so many are blind to manipulation, the ability to see clearly is not just a burden, it is your greatest gift. When you begin to see the narcissist clearly, one of the hardest things you will ever face is the loneliness that comes with that clarity. It is not simply the kind of loneliness where you sit in an empty room. It is a deeper kind of loneliness, the feeling that you are standing in a crowded space, surrounded by people, yet no one understands what you see, what you know, and what you feel. It's like standing in the middle of a busy street, waving your hands and saying, "Don't you see what's happening?" But everyone else keeps walking by, smiling, convinced that everything looks fine. That's when you realize clarity, while powerful, often feels isolating. Let me give you an everyday picture. Imagine being in a group of friends where one person cracks a joke at your expense. Everyone laughs. Everyone praises that person for being so funny. But you know that behind that joke was a sharp edge, is a subtle insult meant to cut you down. You feel hurt, but no one else notices. They think you're overreacting. That's how it feels when you notice the cruelty behind the narcissist's charm. You see the sting, you feel the cut, but others only see the laughter. And in that moment, you feel unseen, unheard, alone, or picture yourself at work. A narcissistic boss might publicly praise a colleague while quietly undermining you. You try to explain the unfairness, but your coworkers shake their heads and say, "Oh, he's just strict, that's his style." You wonder why no one else can see the manipulation. Why no one else notices the favoritism, why no one else recognizes the quiet bullying that you experience daily. That gap between your clarity and their blindness is what makes the journey so lonely. But let me tell you something important. Loneliness in this kind of clarity is not proof that you are wrong. It is proof that you are ahead. When a lighthouse stands on a rocky shore, it shines its beam across the ocean. It is solitary, often battered by storms, yet it continues to guide ships to safety. The lighthouse does not expect other lights to appear beside it, it knows its role is to stand alone if necessary. That is what your clarity is. It makes you a lighthouse. Others may still be lost in the fog of illusion, but your vision allows you to guide yourself forward and perhaps one day, guide others too. There is another daily example many of us can relate to. Think about when you first learned the truth about healthy living. Maybe you realized that certain foods were harming your body, so you stopped eating them. But your family or friends kept saying, "Come on, just one more bite. It's not that bad." You saw what they couldn't see, the damage, the long-term cost. At first, it was isolating, because everyone around you resisted your clarity. But eventually, some began to ask questions. Some even followed your path. And whether they did or not, your clarity gave you strength. This is the same pattern with narcissists. You may feel like the odd one out because you see the reality, but clarity is not meant to make you fit in. It's meant to make you stronger. Loneliness can make us doubt ourselves. It whispers, "Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm imagining things. Maybe if no one else sees it, it isn't real." But hear me clearly, your experience is real. Your feelings are real. Your clarity is real. Just because others cannot step into your shoes does not mean the journey you're walking isn't valid. In fact, it is often the lonely paths that build the strongest character. Diamonds are formed in isolation, deep beneath the earth, away from human eyes. And when they finally emerge, their brilliance is undeniable. In the same way, your lonely clarity is shaping you into something unbreakable. Instead of fighting the loneliness, you can transform it, use it as a space to reconnect with yourself. When others don't understand you, you learn to understand yourself more deeply. When others don't validate your experience, you learn to validate your own truth. That's where self-trust is born. That's where resilience grows. Because at the end of the day, it is not about how many people stand beside you. It is about how firmly you can stand on your own. Let me share one final picture. Think of a mountain climber. At the base of the mountain, the crowd is huge. Many people are there, laughing, cheering, starting the journey together. But as the climb gets steeper, fewer people remain. The air grows thinner, the path narrower, and eventually only the strongest climbers keep moving upward. And when the climber finally reaches the peak, if they often stand alone, but they also stand with the most breathtaking view in the world. If that's what the loneliness of clarity is, it is the steep climb that fewer people are willing to make. It's difficult, it's isolating, but it also leads to the highest perspective. So if you feel lonely because you see the narcissist clearly while others don't, remind yourself, if this loneliness is not your punishment, it is your preparation. It is teaching you to stand firm, to trust your truth, to walk ahead even when others can't follow. And though the journey may feel heavy now, in time, if you will realize that the very clarity that once made you feel alone has become the very light that guides you to freedom. Pain is something every one of us experiences, but when it comes to dealing with a narcissist, the pain has a very sharp edge. It's not just about disappointment, it's about betrayal. It's not just about stress, it's about confusion. It's not just about sadness. It's about questioning your own worth because someone else has constantly chipped away at it. This kind of pain feels like carrying a weight no one else can see, a heaviness that only you understand. But here is the truth I want you to hold on to. Pain, as difficult as it is not the end of your story. Pain can become your power if you learn how to transform it. Think about how muscles grow in the human body. When you lift weights, your muscles experience tiny tears. That's why you feel sore after a workout. But those small tears are not signs of weakness. They are the very process through which the muscle grows stronger. Without the pain of resistance, without the tearing, there would be no growth. In the same way, the pain you've experienced from seeing the narcissist clearly, from being manipulated, if dismissed or devalued, is not a sign of your weakness. It is a sign that you are in the process of growing stronger. Every tear in your trust, every wound in your heart can rebuild into wisdom, resilience, and inner power. Let's bring this into a simple daily example. Imagine you touch a hot stove by mistake, the pain makes you pull your hand back immediately. That pain is unpleasant, but it teaches you an invaluable lesson. Never touch that hot surface again. The next time you walk into the kitchen, you are more alert, more careful, more aware. If pain taught you how to protect yourself, dealing with a narcissist is exactly like that. The pain of betrayal, the pain of disrespect, the pain of gaslighting, it all teaches you to recognize red flags sooner, to protect your peace faster, to trust your instincts more deeply. Pain becomes your teacher. There's another way to look at it. Think about the process of turning coal into a diamond. Coal on its own is dark and ordinary. But when it is placed under immense pressure over time, it transforms into something precious, unbreakable, and shining. Without the pressure, the diamond would never exist. In the same way, the pressure you have endured in your relationship with a narcissist is molding you into someone unbreakable. You may not feel it right now because when you're inside the pressure, all you feel is the weight. But one day you'll look back and realize the pain you carried became the very reason you shine brighter, the very reason you are stronger, the very reason you now live with clarity and strength. But here is the shift that makes the difference. Stop using your energy to try to expose the narcissist to everyone else, and instead, redirect that energy into building yourself. Because the truth is, you cannot control when or how others will see them clearly. But you can control how you respond, how you grow, how you heal. And that shift from trying to change others to focusing on yourself is the moment pain starts turning into power. Take, for example, a student who fails an exam, they can sit in the pain of failure, repeating in their head how unfair the test was or how strict the teacher was, or they can use the pain of that failure as motivation to study harder, to sharpen their skills, to prepare differently next time. The same exam that broke them today becomes the reason they succeed tomorrow. That's how pain transforms into power, not when we sit in it endlessly, but when we decide to build from it. Your pain can push you to set boundaries. Your pain can teach you self-respect. Your pain can remind you that you deserve relationships where you are valued, not used. Many people only change their lives after hitting rock bottom. If they change their careers after losing a toxic job, they improve their health after facing an illness. If they protect their peace after surviving a relationship that drained them, pain forces us to confront truths we might have ignored in comfort. If, and while comfort lulls us into complacency, pain pushes us into transformation. Let me leave you with this picture. Imagine a seed buried in the soil. If, to the outside world, it looks like nothing is happening, but underground, the seed is breaking apart, it is being pressured, it is cracking open. That breaking process looks painful if you were to imagine it from the seed's perspective. But without breaking, there is no sprout. Without pressure, if there is no growth. And one day, that seed pushes through the soil, reaches the sunlight, and becomes a tree. If. That's exactly what happens when you turn your pain into power. The breaking, the pressure, the darkness, it all feels unbearable. But it is preparing you to rise, to push through, to grow into something you never imagined you could become. So if you are sitting with pain right now because you see the narcissist clearly and you feel the weight of that realization, don't let that pain bury you. Let it plant you. Don't let it break you without purpose. Let it break you open into a new life, a stronger self, a clearer path. Pain is not the enemy. It is the process. And when you embrace the process, you discover the hidden power that has been inside you all along.